We go. We are live. Good morning or greetings, everybody. Wesley Pepper here. Welcome to the Art Lexcia podcast, episode 184. I like to complain about the weather, but God, it's nice and cold this morning. But anyway, I trust everybody is well. Today we're talking comedy. Actually, maybe that'll warm up the soul or something like that. Or just eat something up. But we're touching base with Chris Forrest. You remember him from last year with the Ultimate Braai experience. We still remember we gave away free tickets for that. Let's start off. First, Chris, good morning, my brother. Welcome. How are you?
Good morning. I am currently freezing / defrosting and then freezing again. But otherwise good. It was fantastic.
Same here. It was actually quite trippy waking up this morning. It was a bit too crisp for my liking. But yeah, let's jump into it, my brother, man. Last year, just before we before we get into the Redhill Arts Festival, the Ultimate Braai Experience 2024. How was it? How was the turnout? The comedy, the food.
Good and good. The weather was very hot. It was when you're hoping that it won't rain, and then you pray to every weather god there is, everyone.
One of those
and then
days.
It doesn't rain, but instead there's a heat wave, so we struggled a bit. But the food was lekker. The people who came out, everybody said they loved it. So we had a great time. It was brilliant.
Lekker, man. Nah, good. So today we're talking about the Redhill Arts Festival. It's taking place from the 13th of June in Sandton. I also see there's a parental guidance thingy. I want to get to that. But just explain to us what the Redhill Fest is about. Your involvement, and then we'll unpick the lineup and what you're talking about, the food and everything.
All right. So the Redhill Fest, from what I gather, this is the first time I'm doing it, so I can't speak on it with too much authority. But from what I gather, it's an arts festival. It looks really cool. There's some. I looked through the lineup. There's some really, really nice stuff to see. Obviously, our shows are the best. But it looks like it's just a weekend full of art and culture and amazingness. I think it's really nice that somebody like Redhill's doing something like this. Previously, you would have had to drive all the way to the Eastern Cape to formerly known as Grahamstown, now known as Makanda, for an arts festival, and you could freeze there. Now you can be freezing in Joburg and save a lot of petrol.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, okay. Okay, yeah. So you're not behind the festival because it's also taking place. For those guys that don't know, it's a long weekend. So I assume that they're trying to cash in on that with people not going anywhere, and like you say, with the people that's not going to attend the Grahamstown Festival. Because I see there's a bunch of theater stalls, etc., etc. So it sounds like a lot of fun. But this is where I want to come in, because I see it's like, these festivals are usually family orientated, right? Bring the kids, blah 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 blah. But your guys' gig has got a parental guidance thingy. How does that work? If you have a family thing, isn't it supposed to be family friendly?
Well, there's sort of two gigs that we're doing. So I'm going to put it as two. Both of them, I think, have got a PG thing. So there's the stand-up comedy one, where there's a fair possibility people might swear, and as parents, we like to believe that our children have never heard any four-letter words before.
Yeah.
We believe they don't use them, and they don't watch TV. And even though we use them all the time as parents, because it's very difficult. Like, for example, if somebody cuts you off in traffic, to say, golly gosh, that silly old man. Because I do find myself using different words. But so just to maintain that facade, we tell people that there's a PG age restriction. But I do find in my experience that a lot of people will just bring their kids anyway. But the other show, the Don't Burn Your Sausage show, weirdly enough, there's no swearing in it, but assuming we sell out, which will be interesting considering the current weather, we do it wearing nothing but aprons. So we give that PG 16.
Yeah, that's a tough gig.
Well, there's only one time where we flat out refused. We were doing it at a place called the Delta Cafe, in the outdoor area, and it's literally on the Braamfontein-Spruit, and it was weather similar to this, and people were like, "Are you worried because pieces of you will be small?" And I was like, "No, I'm not worried about that. I'm worried that it'll be cold, and I'm not going to go through that." But anyway, so yeah, so that's, we kind of put the age restriction on, but also because we do talk a lot about sex during the show, even though we don't swear, it's all kind of innuendo and whatever. The show is all about how to get yourself in action by cooking the ultimate, what Pete calls the spade work meal.
So yeah, I actually saw that. I wanted to ask about that. Could you? But now that we're there, can you explain to us? Is it just a word just coming up for a meal, or is it something specific in terms of the actual meal itself?
No, so it's basically, we explore all the sort of similarities between food and sex, and I mean, when you go on a date, generally you'll take a lady out for a meal. And the premise of this goes back to when Pete was in his single days, and he was a student back then. It was actually partly how he got into being a chef. Was he was staying in a digs, and between him and his digs mates, they quickly realized if you brought a lady over and you cooked for her, then your chances of impressing her are far higher than if you took her to like the spur.
Yeah.
And then also she's kind of, because it's one thing, so she knows you've been thinking about it all day and prepping and making a really delicious meal. And the other thing is, it was, as a student, a bit easier on the pocket as well, because it's always cheaper to make your own food. And then the other digs mates would be waiters and whatever, and it was a whole thing just to make a lady feel special.
Yeah, I don't think they realize how expensive it is.
And then he goes further in terms of the kind of like the meal you make. If the lady's up for it, you kind of feed each other and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun. But we also, as I say, we make a lot of jokes. There's a lot of innuendo. We talk about like food and sex and what to order and whatever on a first date and all of that type of stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. Actually leads me to my next question, because like the whole "don't burn your sausage," there's a lot of sexual innuendo there, and also food. So is that like the whole Chris Forrest brand, to incorporate food? I mean, like, the celebrity chef thing into the comedy. Is that part of the package?
It's part of the brand. It's not the whole brand. It's become part of the package. Never mind. No, it's so there is still a pure comedy side of things, which is obviously what we're doing on Father's Day. But I do love the foodie side of things as well. So the shows like that is just a combination of the two, which is loads of fun for me.
This is actually not part of the thing of the interview today, but I have to ask this. So I watch a lot of comedy, and I've noticed that I actually want to ask a comedian this question. There is a few. I don't think I'll name drop comedians just because I think that can bite me in the ass in the long term. But comedians are becoming very political these days. Also very philosophical. Also having very elaborate opinions on what's happening globally, locally, and so forth. Is that? Do you touch on any of that?
No, not really. No, as not in stand-up. So no, the thing is stand-up comedy, to get a little bit theoretical for you here.
Yeah.
I don't know if theoretical is the right word, but going into stand-up comedy theory, there's a couple of things that you got to do. The number one thing is you've got to speak your truth. So it's got to be true to you. You can't, to use a completely different example, you can't talk about how crazy you get on cocaine if you've never taken cocaine in your life. To use an example of a comedian who used to do that, and he never did well. It was only later on when he started talking about what a computer geek he was, that people kind of, then he was funny, because people kind of on some level see through that. So there will be guys like, let's obviously the big thing at the moment is Donald Trump. So there'll be guys who see other comedians getting a laugh for insulting, say, Donald Trump or Helen Zille or Julius Malema or Jacob Zuma or whoever. And they go, okay, if that guy gets a laugh, then I'm going to make jokes, similar jokes, then I'll get a laugh. And those guys will never make it big in the industry. They'll always be there or thereabouts. They've gone for the easy laugh. People won't, because it's... And the other thing is you also have to talk about what's important to you. So if politics is your main thing and it's what's important to you, then talk about politics. Like for me, you'll see I talk a lot about my kids. I talk about weird things that, like, I might bring in. I'm trying to think, like, working as a comedian, my experiences dealing with my wife, that type of thing, because that's my life. Like, I don't talk about what Ramaphosa said to Donald Trump, because whilst I watch it and I take note of it, it's not my main passion. That said, one of my main passions is Liverpool, and I never talk about them because I don't joke about religion.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting you say like comedies jumping on what's funny. That's a pretty good answer. Given that stuff is so, I mean, it's in everybody's face. You can just switch on any of your devices. That's all you see. So interesting point about that.
Yeah. But if everybody's doing it, it becomes the term for it is hack. So, so if everyone's doing, like it wasn't so long ago, every second comedian and their dog would do jokes about how, like, black people can't swim, white people can't dance, colored guys have no teeth. I don't even know how that's still relevant, because I don't think is that a thing anymore. Indian people try to get a better deal. And then it was like there was just a plethora of jokes about white people do this, black people do this, colored people do this, Indian people do this. And it became so, like, every single comedian's, oh, look, white dogs bark like this, black dogs. And it's it kind of worked when the original guys did it. But then if every single comedian's doing the same premise, it becomes, as I say, a hack, and it becomes boring pretty quickly.
It is. Also, just another point there. Comedy is entertainment. People want to be entertained, not be preached at, not being told, be reminded of something that you might be sensitive of. I've noticed that a lot with pop culture, especially post 2020, a lot of preaching in music, movies. It's a bit much.
There's kind of, I was actually thinking about this the other day. I'm going to get preachy here. There's more like awareness of mental health now than ever before.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, for me, and it could just be me, that's why I would be interested to Google it, I feel like I've had more people that I know and friends take their own lives in recent years than ever before, which for me, it's like, shouldn't the opposite be true? But I think also there's a random, you see, now you got me getting preachy here. There's a random thing where everybody wants to claim suddenly I've got some sort of mental health issue, and I'm not saying mental health is not an issue. It is one, and a lot of people are claiming to be neurodiverse, and once again, that is a real thing. But you wonder how many people just convince themselves, because, and then rather than getting the real people who are suffering from these things. But anyway, that's just my weird thing, which is basically me being sad about people who've recently taken their own lives. Anyway, moving on. This is a comedy.
I was gonna say, if you wanna go down that rabbit hole, you can go. There's lots of opportunity for that. All you have to do is switch on your phone. You wanted to go?
Yeah, you wanted to come in? Social. But let's not do that now.
No, it's too early in the morning. It's too early, and I'm sure
we're talking comedy.
Yeah, let's actually get into the lineup over there, man. So, I see, the likes of David Cow and others are there. The Goliath, one of the Goliaths are there. Just tell us a little bit about the lineup. what you're expecting each comedian to bring?
Okay, so Rakau, me and David have been friends. He's one of my oldest friends. Which I'm old, so I think I'm going to try and count where we first met. We've been mates for about 26 years, which is older than probably most people who'll be attending the show. And
Probably.
so he's never, I've never seen him not have a good show. He's always amazing. He's recently, because I think he went quiet for a little while and played a lot of golf, but I've been working with him a lot in the last year, and he's coming up with new material all the time, and he's knocking it out the park all the time. He's got a bit that I love about black funerals. He talks about lockdown and dealing with his kids. He's got so many like brilliant insights on life. Nick Goliath is, I mean, he's Nick's just this ball of energy that I absolutely love. He comes up with really, really cool things that you don't see coming. It's amazing. And the same with Mojak Lohoko. Mojak is quite a cerebral comic. And I love he's got this rhythm and this amazing positivity to him that I think
He's
people
funny.
are drawn to. I've always
funny. Yeah, he's a pretty funny dude.
Yeah. He's just, as I say, he's always, and he's a thinker. He'll give you a way of looking at things. I liken him a bit to David Kibuka, if you remember David Kibuka. Not just on stage, but off stage. He'll make you think about things in a different way to what you ever did before, which I quite enjoy.
Tell me, man, let me come in there. Tell me, since like you mentioned, you and David Carr has been friends for the longest time. So you obviously know each other's material, deliverance processes and so forth. Do you kind of feed off that? Say, for example, you should go before you or you before him or something like that. Do you feed off that and his other's comedy and that type of thing?
There are comedians that you feed off each other. I think me and David's styles are, in terms of material, we have similar subject matters because obviously we're both kind of hitting that same age where we are pretty much the same age as far as I know. I think he's like a month young, older than me. Not that matters. And then, but our delivery is very different. Our takes on things are very different. So it's you're gonna hear my father-in-law in the background here. Just a guest appearance there by Joe Hoy. Please put him in the credits. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of guys who there's also an energy kind of thing that you got to work with. So like if a comic is very high energy, you've got to try and match that and that type of thing. But there's so many different styles and whatever. There are guys though, especially the international guys. When you watch them, that is like if you watch a lot of theirs. Like I went through a stage where I watched a lot of, say, Jim Jeffries, for example, and then I kind of sort of started mimicking unintentionally his rhythm. And you
I see what you're saying.
And I've got to go back to my own kind of vibe because that's me rather than.
I have to ask this question also, and I've always wondered. So you have a lineup of 5 or 6 guys, and say the one guy sort of bombs or he doesn't get enough laughs. Does that put pressure on the other comics? And if that pressure, how do you conceptualize it? Is it nervous? Do you change your material?
No, not at all. Like the thing is you've got to go out there with kind of like I think it's a bit of experience as well, because I've been doing this thing far too long. So I generally I don't go out there knowing what I'm going to say, but it's not like I just make it up on the spot.
Okay.
I've got kind of set bits that are maybe 2 to 3 minutes long. And then I'm going, okay, they're not going with this bit. I'll maybe try this one, which is a little bit more like this or this, and navigate it through that kind of thing. So I never go out there with like, there are guys who have a planned set list, who will write it down and stick to that. That's their thing. I'm not saying it's either way is right or wrong. I'm just saying what I prefer.
Yeah.
If a guy bombs, if he dies hard, you have to kind of ask yourself why.
Yeah.
If you are on a lineup, it does happen. I mean, it's we've all had a hard time from time to time. So luckily it hardly ever happens anymore, touch wood. But if one of the guys, no, because I mean, it does. Anyone who says they never die is lying. I've seen every single comic in this country, including Trevor, have a tough night. So if it does happen, it's, you know, like you can also know if it's a great comic who's having a tough time, you kind of look at what he did and what he did wrong. And if it's a comic that you know is hit and miss, then you kind of go, okay. The one thing you never do is blame the crowd. It's never the crowd's fault. And then you've just got to, yeah. So it's like if you're going on after somebody, because I'll give you an example. I don't want to say who it was, but it was at a big gig recently, and the person in question had gone on stage, and I don't think they'd been on stage for a long time, and they did the same stuff they've been doing for kind of 12 years, and just the term for it is laid an egg, just killed the crowd. And I was like, I said, because it was a big gig, there was a dude playing music. I said, you got to go with a massive high energy song. And then I just started my set as high energy as I could, as up and down and whatever, and then just to try and lift that again. And it worked quite nicely as a side note.
Interesting. Another.
I'm just gonna. Yeah, I just want to elaborate something on that. A lot of guys also think that when a comedian dies, that backstage the other comedians rag them and tell them that they're terrible. That very, very rarely happens. Like, everybody's always kind of supportive and whatever, because to quote, there's a guy called Al Prodgers, only a comic knows how lonely it can be on that stage if nobody's laughing at you.
I guess you can make the same argument for the arts in general. If it goes rough, only other artists can relate to the arts. That actually makes complete sense. I have another last question actually on the processes on the actual comedy itself. Is improv. So I mean, like we're commenting on the cold and stuff. So you say you have like a set a thing. You know exactly what you're gonna say. How does improv come into that? So, for example, you're looking at the crowd and you see people actually, you know, physically getting cold or becoming restless or whatever. How do you work that into your set?
So if there is an improv element, like it'll come to you. Like, you've just got to believe in it. A lot of what you do in stand-up comedy is confidence. So there's a thing that a lot of people miss. Their material obviously is a percentage, but there's a far bigger percentage of sort of your non-verbal communication and your tonality and your emotions or whatever. So if you do something with confidence, I mean, there is a comedian who improvises up a storm and people laugh at him just because he's funny. And if you actually have to write down what he's saying, it's not hilarious. But if you walk out in the crowd and a joke comes to you, then I'll go with it. Like I did.
Yeah.
I did a gig recently in Edenvale. There was a bunch of Portuguese guys in the crowd. And then I just started talking about Portuguese people. And next thing I know, I've spent 10 minutes taking the mickey out of Porras. And I love Portuguese people, for the record. I've got some of my best friends are Portuguese, you know.
Of course they are. Of course. Who else?
Yeah.
But that's very interesting, because I will actually look out for that. Like I said, I enjoy comedy. I think post 2020, I've probably been watching more comedy, just of a break from everything else. And I find that fascinating, how they sort of feed off a crowd. Just one last question. It's sort of on that feeding of a crowd. Do you guys do that where you pick on people in the crowd? That, what they call it, audience. That interaction with the audience. Does any of the comics do that? And is that a thing?
So I'm gonna break your your question into two parts. This is almost like a comedy lecture. So the first thing is comics do feed off the crowd. Comedy is not a monologue; it's a dialogue. So basically, you putting stuff out there, and the crowd responds with their laughter or whatever, and that's the dialogue. You'll see there are comics who are sort of over rehearsed, and oftentimes you'll get guys who are actors who are reading almost like a comedy monologue, and they don't sort of adjust to the crowd or whatever, and then they start to struggle. They've probably got a very funny thing that they start to struggle because the crowd realizes that it doesn't matter if they're there or not. So this guy's still just going to be reading the lines in the same way, doing it the same way. There's no interaction, there's no back and forth. And as a comedian, you've got to, if I always say the best comedians are the ones that feel like you standing there having a conversation with them at a braai rather than sitting watching them on a stage. In terms of crowd interaction, it's kind of a thing in South Africa. Often the MCs do it. There are guys who've made it the entire style. It can be a thing. It's a choice. Like every comedian can do it. Well, most comedians can do it. Not every comedian can do it well. But they're guys who have a lot of fun with it. I personally, like, you do the thing. What's your name? What do you do? And then you move on. It can be fun. It can get a bit tiresome. It all depends on your mood.
Yeah, I guess also the crowd and the people itself. I guess it can also become I guess that one. I know from my thing,
But
I would actually hate that, to be honest. If I was sitting there and somebody picks on me, especially if I'm trying to impress people that I'm with.
But you know what? I'll tell you, there are guys who actually love it. They will sit in front because they want to be picked up. They want to be the guy.
Absolutely.
There was a great story about a guy who there was a show out in Florida Lake, and there was a dude there who he didn't realize was one of the comedians, because the guy who was running the show, the sound technician, let him down at the last minute, and he phoned me and he said, can I help him out with the sound system? So I was busy setting up the sound, and I'm overhearing his comedian where he was going, last comedy show he was at, he said, they try to speak to me, I Guara the comedian and whatever. And I was just like, okay, cool, let's see how this guy does. And I didn't even tell the other comics, but for some reason, the comics, almost every single one of them had a chat to him and just made him look like a complete ass after he'd been bragging about how he. But yeah, no. So, and he had sat in front purely because he thought he was going to show off to his lady. But there are people who hate it. There are people who enjoy it. But you also, I mean, for me, when I'm talking to somebody, I can kind of get a sense of if they're uncomfortable or not, and then you kind of got to play off that. Because if I make you uncomfortable, then the people around you are going to stop laughing, and then
and you're going to tell people.
It almost becomes like, you almost become like a bully, and you don't want to do that.
Absolutely. That was actually, I like what you said, a comedy lecture. I'm going to use it in the bio. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So let's just actually get into the specs of the actual event. So like you guys said, there's a 3-course meal, a bunch of comics. The ticket prices, I think it's $100, right? I didn't write that down.
Ticket prices are
just break that down.
So I don't know about a 3-course meal. That's concerning to me. So let me just double check. There is, so me and Pete will be cooking a 3-course meal. That's a thing.
Oh, that's all right.
So we're cooking a 3-course meal. We'll show you how to cook it. It will be fantastic. The tickets are at ticketpro.co.za. I'm just double checking the costs, but I'm very professional here. I'm going to click on the link. Just because you guys have got time, hey? There's no rush.
No, there's no rush. There's no rush.
Tickets are $180 each.
There we go. Yes. It's kind of a strange price,
So
180. Usually prices are around number 150, 100.
well, there's round comedians. So I think it's for both. Don't burn your don't burn your sausage, and for the stand up show. Um, so come through both of them. The stand up show is loads of fun. It's some of my all time favorite comedians. As I said, I love all of the guys on the lineup. They're brilliant. Don't Burn Your Sausage is one of my favorite shows to do. It's different from normal stand up comedy. It's a good laugh. You learn all about how to cook the meal as well if you're a foodie. It's a great date night thing. And then also the comedy show is on Father's Day. So you know what?
Mm.
Bring your father, because I'll be there without much. That'll be my Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, everyone. I'm going to work now.
Yeah.
Thank you for the socks.
Well, thank you,
Yeah.
Jeff. I see you guys got another show on I had it here, on the 23rd of July, on Wednesday the 23rd of July at the Rustic Timbers Garden Center. So is that the same gig?
At Picolino's, it'll be the same show, yeah.
Yeah, at Picolino's Pizza in Witkoppen Road in Fourways. So same lineup, same setup, everything. Like at the
So that is
Redhill.
once again, don't burn your sausage. So that's me and Pete again. So what we do is generally, the show is always a sellout. Just as a side note, get your tickets now before they sell out. But what we do is Pete lives in Cape Town and I live in Joburg. So if one of us is in the other one's city for like a corporate show or whatever, which is what's happening, then we normally get together and
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
do a show somewhere. So because we have a lot of fun, we hang out, we drink a lot of wine. It's in the script that we have to, and obviously we wrote the script as well.
Yeah, of course.
And then we chill and do the thing.
Yeah, fantastic, man. Fantastic, Chris. This sounds like a blast, man. It's also like he says on Father's Day, it is a long weekend. If you're in South Africa, it's gonna be a cold long weekend as well. So I guess comedy, I personally, I love it. I personally enjoy comedy over. I don't know if it's a me thing, but like a Friday night to me is the most ideal. Because Saturdays are sort of like for sport, Sunday is something else. But like, I don't know. For me, Friday nights it's just got a comedy thing to it. Anyway, but it is a long weekend, and like you said, it is Father's Day. So if there's anybody there that with their dads, or if they are a dad or grandparents or whatever, grandparents, males in your family, yeah, I would definitely suggest everyone to come through. Chris, is there anything else that I've left out, man, with regards to especially tickets? You said he's on Ticket Pro.
Not you show your age now. It's on ticketpro.co.
Shit, but it easier somewhere.
Remember
But
when
yeah,
everything was the other person? But that's definitely Ticket Pro. Go check it out. Just go ticketpro.co.za and you can search the Redhill Arts Festival, or you can just do on the Redhill, go to redhill.co.za and click on the show there. I think the tickets are, I know everyone says this, but we got the update yesterday. They're moving pretty quickly. We're about 80% sold out on both shows. So you don't want to miss out. You really want to see me and Pete in nothing but an apron. That's important in your life.
Good luck for that. I guess like after the show, you'll probably have a bit of a cough or a sneeze if you're gonna do that. I think people will go out just to watch you in a in an apron and trying to keep a straight face.
Yeah, well, with a body like mine, obviously. But no, whether we fully clothed or in an apron, I don't recall ever having a bad "Don't Burn Your Sausage" show.
So
In fact, we're busy writing a new one now as well, because this one is we've been doing it for a long time and we always have fun, so we've got to come up with a new one now.
dope. Chris, this was a blast, my brother. Thanks for coming through, man. To my guests, don't forget, it's the 13th to the 16th of June, Redhill School in Sandton. But I'll put all these specs down below in the description box. description thingy. You get what I'm saying. Once again, my brother, thanks a lot, man. It was good coming through, good having a chat. The rest of your day. Cheers, man.
Lekker. Cheers.
Shop, shop.